Hi, and welcome to Eating Plebian Weekend Edition. Today we've got chicken and sausage gumbo. Uh, this is, again, one of those more popular recipes that I have around my house that people actually ask for, especially in the more winter, fall months. But we're going to be going ahead and uh, doing this recipe. I've got a bit of chicken that I have left over from the other evening. I figured it would work out perfect. If you don't have any leftover chicken, then you can obviously take a pound of it yourself and put it in a skillet, saute it up, and you're ready to go. And so, therefore, let's go and see what we've got waiting for us. Along with a medium large Dutch oven, I have got okra. I've got uh, half a large onion. You could use just one small one if you'd like. One green pepper, two stalks of celery. I've got some sausage over here. Normally, I would like to use andouille, but the prevailing tastes of the house tend to dominate, and so I'm just using regular beef sausage. You can use andouille for a more correct approach, I guess. I've got a little over a pound of chicken breasts. Also, traditionally, you would probably end up using chicken thighs, boned and chop up. But again, the preferences of the house, they like white meat. So you can use either one. I've got a cup of flour and I've got a couple of high temperature cooking oil. You don't want to use olive oil because the smoke point is way too low. It'll end up burning, and that's not a great thing. Got some garlic over here, some thyme, bay leaves, and also a bottle of your favorite Cajun spice, salt, pepper, and a little bit of knowledge as to how to put it all together. I'm going to also address a little bit about okra. Okra is a great and versatile vegetable that was brought over by the Africans. And one of the things that I think probably keeps it from being more popular is the simple fact that a lot of people are put off by the fact that it can be slimy when you chop it up. But let me give you two things to think about. If you have smaller okra, they produce less of that than the large stuff. But the other thing to think about is the simple fact that once you cook it, it all goes away anyhow. So these, if you can find them, these little smaller ones will produce less of that substance if that helps you out in actually using it. You can also fry it. You can do all sorts of things, add it to other vegetables. And also, I don't know what it is, but they tend to be less hairy than they used to be. It used to be like you almost needed to shave the dang things, but not anymore. I think there was been some hybridization or something going on there. But yeah, even the small ones, you get a little bit of the that going on. Don't let it put you off. It all goes away. Now, having moved over onto the cooktop, I've had this heating up now for just a couple of minutes over medium low. This is my larger burner because it's a larger base of the pot, but heat management in cooking is one of the things that tends to elude a lot of people. Now, I have a full batch of roux to make, but I'm probably not going to end up using all of it. This is a half batch recipe, but sometimes, just like thickener and gravy, you never know exactly how much you're going to need. And so that's why I like making the full batch, which is 1 cup of flour to 1 cup of oil, and I'm simply going to add this in. And the point of all of this is to cook and actually somewhat toast this roux, and it's going to take a bit. I've tried many alternative methods to creating roux. Some of them involve putting them in the oven for a while and simply not touching it. Haven't had a lot of great success with that. I've tried other ways of doing it, and it just never worked out. This is the traditional way, and frankly, the best. But again, it takes time. So I'm going to get all these clots in here, and I'm going to start stirring around. Something else to know about roux is that The flour has its best thickening potential when it's raw, or as you would say, like a roux blonde. It hasn't gotten up any color. Now, the more you cook it, the more flavor you get it, the more nuttiness that goes in. Roux that you will see are oftentimes described as a brick roux or a red roux or a chocolate roux. And those are kind of what we're aiming for here. But there's a fine line of dark roux or chocolate roux and burnt. So again, the heat management, you got to know when to stop. So you can tell that this is pretty hot already. It's bubbling all over the place. There's no particular water content in here. There may be some trace stuff from the flour soaking up humidity from the air, but really not much, and that will be gone in just a second. So what I'm going to do is I am going to stand here, and I am going to keep stirring, and I am going to make sure that none of the roux, none of the flour, none of the oil is sitting in place at the bottom or in the creases of the bottom of the pot for too long. That way we can ensure that everything gets cooked at the same rate, at the same time, best chance of success. All right, so I am going to enter into our time machine and we're going to jump forward a few minutes. Join me then. Okay, it has now been 5 minutes, and you can see that we've got a consistency change going on here with the flour and the oil. You can see it kind of getting crumbly. That's perfectly all right. And the other thing that you've noticed is that we've moved on from beyond the roux blonde into what I usually call the peanut butter phase. And this peanut butter phase is kind of like the median point when we start to get into something really useful. But you can really tell what's going on simply by the aroma that's going on with the with this stuff. You can just absolutely smell it. It is really nutty, really nice flavor. I'm probably actually going to add just a little bit more oil just to keep it regulated because I'm starting to see just a little bit of smoke, and we don't want to burn that up. So I'm going to add about 2 to 3 more tablespoons here. I'm also going to turn my heat down a little bit because we are starting to see some localization of some of the brown stuff that you see forming up in the corners. That's a bit better. So yeah, now we're even beyond the peanut butter stage. We'll be moving into chocolate in just a minute. All right, join us back in just a second. All right, I think we are now at the point where we're starting to consider how far to go. We are now at a nice chocolate roux. Uh, this is not going to have as much thickening potential as a raw or a roux blonde, or even the peanut butter. Of course, as I said, as the flavor increases, the thickening power decreases. But you know what? I'm going to say let's go ahead and call this done. As I said earlier, I was also making a full batch amount of roux, and I'm making just a half batch amount of gumbo. So I'm going to take some of this out. I made sure to grab a bowl that's A, thick, and B, has a nice handle on it, because this stuff is called Cajun napalm for a reason. It is exceptionally, exceptionally hot. And I'm going to set this off to the side. Now here's where the real fun comes in. This is the first of our vegetation. This is half a large onion, a green pepper, 2 stalks of celery, and in it goes. I bet you thought, for some people that haven't actually had gumbo before, that I was going to take it out, take the roux out, and use some vegetable oil just with the veggies here. But no, there's no point. Just throw that right in. And again, for so many other recipes, I'm waiting to see when the onions start to turn translucent. It's been about 3 minutes now, and the onions are starting to come into their own. Now I'm going to be adding the garlic. That's 3 to 5, depending on their size. All minced up. I'll put this in here. It's going to get fragrant real quick. And you can also see just how deep and rich this vegetable mixture is with that roux that's underneath, that's continuing, albeit at a slower pace, to cook. It's almost coffee dark, and this is just one of the things that makes gumbo special. Now I'm starting to get the garlic in my face here. And if you're wondering what I would end up doing with the rest of this roux, is I'm going to keep it in case I need to thicken it anymore. We will know that further on into the process. But of anything that is left over after the gumbo is made, hold on to it, because it makes some of the best gravy thickener that you have ever had. It's just wonderful, wonderful stuff. Adds a complexity to beef and pork types of gravy that's really hard to match. By the way, don't ever buy that stuff at the grocery store. I mean, yeah, it shaves a good 20-25 minutes off your cooking time, but man, I can't even think about the sort of additives and everything else that they put into it. It doesn't bear thinking about. All right, we're now at the point where we are going to toss in briefly our chicken, just to give it a little bit of a sear that it doesn't have from the cooking that we had the other day. It'll render out any of the other fat. I really do like using chicken thighs simply because of that fat. It just tastes better. And, bony meat, the dark meat. I know I'm going to lose people on this argument, but it really just tastes better. I think a thigh is the best tasting piece of chicken on the bird. All right, so I've got that mixed in. And now that we're not volatile, it's not shrieking at us because the heat has been diluted with all the extra mass that's been added in. I'm going to put in approximately 4 cups of chicken stock. Chicken broth, I should say. I sometimes use the words broth and stock interchangeably. I shouldn't do that because they are two different things. I've been letting this simmer for a little bit just to get everything all melded together. You can see this really nice dark brown color that we have. And you can also see that it's got a nice velvety texture as well. And that's due to that roux. I may or may not yet still use some of the remainder of the roux that I scooped off. The chicken is starting to come apart just a little bit. Again, it's only been about 5 minutes. But now I'm going to start adding some seasoning here. I'm going to use about a teaspoon of thyme, a teaspoon of your favorite Cajun sauce, Cajun seasoning. Come on. 3 bay leaves. So I do not believe in using even numbers for bay leaves. It's a personal superstition. 2, 3. Now, here's something that is going to come down to a personal preference, and that is some cayenne pepper. Again, personal preferences being what they are in my household, they really do not like it spicy. So you're going to imagine that I'm putting in maybe like a quarter teaspoon, but I'm not. And we're going to get that all stirred in. We will be adjusting the seasoning for salt and pepper here as well. Turn the heat down a little bit. Also, teaspoon of salt. I'm not going to put in too much because once you put salt in, you can't get it back out. All you can do is dilute it. That would mean we'd have to make everything over again. About a half teaspoon of pepper. Lastly, I have okra is going into the mix for now. We still have the sausage, but the sausage is already cooked. And I don't want to cook it into oblivion either. So I'm going to mix this in. I'm probably going to need maybe another cup of chicken broth because it's really stewy right at the moment. You can see how thick it is. Give me 1 second. Let's go for that chicken broth right now. That's about a cup. And yeah, I think that's exactly where we want it to be. And now it is time to let it simmer. We're going to put this on low heat over that burner. Shut off this one. This pot is hotter than perdition, I promise you. And we're going to let this go. We are going to stir it occasionally, about once every 10 minutes or so for the next hour. We want it to start breaking down a little bit. I will see you then. After being on a holding pattern for a period of time, our gumbo looks pretty good. I'm half and half on whether or not I'm going to actually use any more of the roux in here. I like mine more like a soup than a gravy because then you start looking at it like an etouffee, which this is not. So I need to make some rice first. So I've got about 15 minutes to do with this as I need to. And now is a perfect time to put in our sausage. I don't put the sausage in earlier for the simple fact that sausage tends to have a lot of fat and oil in it. And if I were to cook it over the course of an hour or so, a lot of that fat would render out, float to the surface, and then you've got something that's not quite so, I don't know, appealing to look at. Still tastes great, and it's not going to ruin anything, certainly. But, you know, I just don't like all the extra fat rolling around. So I've now placed that in. That was refrigerated, of course, and so I'm going to take this up just slightly. You'll also note that I've got a double here going on. I'm going to move the camera just a little bit, and you can see that I've got both my diffuser, and I've also got a small skillet. Maybe some of you have been wondering what the devil that was. And that's also just a double diffuser. I didn't want to overheat this. And this stove, as I've mentioned before, puts off a lot of heat. Even at dead low, this thing is almost a rolling boil after a period of time. So doubling up on the diffuser helps me out a lot on that. Now, I do have a smaller burner. It's back here. I don't use it often because I very often keep other ingredients in baskets right here. So I've moved it away so I can use that for my rice. Just a normal rice recipe that everyone's probably familiar with. I've got 2 cups of water. I've got a cup of rice. And I'm going to put in about a half teaspoon of salt. For a half teaspoon of salt. Bring it to a boil. And I'm going to put it over here on this back burner once it gets to a boil, and I need to cap it off with the lid and let it go. That'll be for about 12 or 15 minutes. Do it according to your package directions, of course. I'm using basmati. That's my favorite type. But you can use whatever it is that you'd like. So we're going to let this come back to temperature. We're going to let our rice finish off, and then we're going to dress some bowls. I have some chopped green onions over here. If you don't have any chopped green onions or green onions, you can also use chopped red onions. The purple red onions, for why they call it that, I don't know, but that also makes a nice addition, and it looks pretty as well. So just on our last sprint here, we'll come back to you in just a minute. And 12 minutes later, we find ourselves with a bubbling cauldron of the soup of life. We're going to go ahead and get this portion down. Set that down, grab a ladle. We're going to put some rice in it. I like to do mine kind of slightly deconstructed by putting it in on the side. Now's the time to go in. Look for the Indian. That. Use your favorite hot sauce. And a bit of the green onions that we were talking about. And that is some fine food. Really, this is the stuff that keeps you going. It's time for us to eat here at Eating Plebian. Thank you once again for joining us. I hope that you enjoyed this recipe, and thank you again for visiting the website, because I pretty much just do this for fun. Thanks a lot.